All right, guys, let's jump into fantasy sports now. I think I was in eighth or ninth last week in this league. Now I'm in fifth. Got a really good win. I won in all three leagues, which has not happened this year for me. Really ugly win this week, 87 to 76. Fields went down, only dropped 5 points. Garrett Wilson showed up. Stephon Diggs, always. Kenneth Walker, solid. Chuba comes in, looks like an RB1. I've been dealing with Miles Sanders, so anybody who has Miles Sanders on their team obviously know the pain of what he's put us through this year. Not very good. As you can see here, Miles Sanders, boom, finally he was out. He had a 14-point week, and every other week has been pretty dreadful. So I got this win. I'm pretty excited about that. The main pickups this week were Kyron Williams on the Rams went down, who's been an absolute monster. I almost traded for him last week. Kind of bittersweet because he dropped a whole bunch of points, but then he got hurt, right? So Zach Evans, they're saying, is going to play. Evans appears to be the first in line to serve as the Rams starting running back, so I don't know if he's still available in any of your leagues. I doubt it. If he is, grab him. Jordan Mason, look at this $50 waiver claim. Back up to CMC. If CMC goes down, he is a great insurance policy for anybody who has CMC. Now, there's no assurances that he's going to go down. They're saying he's probably going to play. Let's see what the latest on CMC is. McCaffrey isn't considered to be dealing with a long-term injury, so McCaffrey probably wants to suit up Monday night. He's got an extra day to heal. We'll see what he's got going on. Now we're going to bounce into this league where I also took down a nice little dub. Week 6, dropped 150 in this league. Burrow, London finally shows up. Amon-Ra, I traded for Amon-Ra. Kamara, Raheem Mostert with Achane going down. Huge. Kyron dropped 21. Lamar dropped 17. So this team absolutely crushed. I made this trade in the middle of the week. I picked up Jeff Wilson. I had Brees coming off a big week. He dropped 30 or 26. Then he had another big week, but he was on a bye. This week, DeAndre Hopkins, I packaged him for Amon-Ra, George Pickens, and Tutu. This guy offered me this trade. I thought I was, getting the better end of the deal. I already dropped Tutu, but I basically upgraded Hopkins to Amon-Ra, and I got Pickens now as a flex flyer in this league. This is a 10-team league, so your team tends to look way better than it is in a 10-team league. But listen, this is what it looks like this week. I can sub out Pickens for Ritter, which I might end up doing. I ended up grabbing Jordan Mason off waivers, which was solid. Jahmyr Gibbs, interesting. David Montgomery is out for anybody who doesn't know. He hurt himself. So Gibbs is supposed to be the guy there. He got injured the week before. Said Gibbs is trending towards playing Sunday. Okay, what does that mean? We don't know. So if I have to, maybe Pickens slots in there, and then Gibbs subs out for Ritter. That's what I'm looking like this week. My projection is pretty solid compared to my opponent this week. He's got a couple people on bye. I really need another win. In this league, top 4, right? The top 4 are going to make it. Now, let's go over to players. This is where we're in the season. There's not a lot of guys who are available, but at the same time, I want you guys to filter to all players and then quarterback, right? You filter that season total, and then what you're going to do is you're going to click fantasy points. As you can see, we're in week 7 of the season, and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th best quarterback in the league is available right here, right? And then you got 10, 11, 12, and the 13th in Russell Wilson. So these guys are putting up points. Sam Howell this week has the Giants. Could be an interesting stream quarterback for anybody who's struggling there. I thought about maybe picking him up. I have Stafford. I'm probably going to ride with Stafford because, as you can see here, he put up 388, and there's a bonus in this league at 350, so he ended up with 31 points. Last week, he only throws for 150. Does throw 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, pretty impressive. Now, what I imagine, though, is the Giants are either going to play him tough or they're going to go up early. And if they go up early, they're going to run the ball. And I don't see him breaking that 350 mark again. As you can see, second highest total is 21 here from Howell against the second worst defense in the league for fantasy quarterbacks. So Giants coming at 20th. I think I like Stafford a little bit better in this spot. In this league because Stafford's playing the Steelers. I think that they're going to play one another. Listen, Stafford's point totals are not impressive, has not broke 20. guess I'm gonna hope that this is the week. He's got Cooper Kupp back. He has Puka. Kyron just got hurt. Maybe they run the ball a little less. Now he did break 300 yards 3 times, but the most he's thrown for in one game is 2 touchdown passes. Threw a bunch of interceptions on this little stretch. So we'll see if Stafford can kind of go back to the old Stafford. And then I got this other league right here, 2 quarterback league. Traded for Tua. I got Ayuk. I got Evans, Mostert, Bijan. I traded for. Looking pretty solid in here. I don't know who to start, Brian Robinson or Jerome Ford. Fantasy Pros. This little extension I got here says Brian Robinson's the one to start based on projections. We'll see as we get closer. I also traded for Samuel Laporta, who is tight end 4 in the league at the moment. I have Achane, who will come back. I have Kareem Hunt, so Kareem Hunt ended up scoring more points than Ford last week on my bench. 14 for Kareem Hunt and 10 for Ford. So I'm sure there's other teams out there who are dealing with the same thing. Again, my projection in this league is pretty solid over this kid. So I'm hoping that won't affect me. And then we have, what do we have? And then we have Christian Watson and KJ Osborne, who also can slot into flex. I think I got to start Ayuk and Evans. I don't know how I could not start those guys. If anybody wants to tell me who I should be starting, please put in the comments. I would appreciate any help here. Bijan obviously is a must. Raheem is a must. Ayuk dropped a 70-yard touchdown, I believe, last week, and he still put up almost 10. So had he caught that, that's another, 10 to 15 points. So I'm going to bounce back over this league. This is kind of the most competitive league at the moment. And, if anybody has advice, too, for me here, I have running back and my flex at the moment empty. Now, I'm probably going to slot in Foreman into this running back spot right here. I'm just kind of worried that Roschon Johnson's coming back, and I don't know who's starting. Foreman had a pretty decent week last week, but not like so impressive that he has to start, right? He had 7 fantasy points, 15 attempts, he had 65 yards. He didn't get in the end zone. Now, listen, Fields went down, but he's not playing this week either, so I don't know what's going to happen there. And then my flex here is also up in the air. I just picked up Darrell Henderson, right, who I think is interesting. He was getting a lot of touches in Los Angeles. I believe he was released. Kyron Williams probably looked like a beast. They had Cam Akers. Cam Akers gets traded to the Vikings. Now they have a bunch of injuries at running back, the Rams. They sign him to their practice squad this week. But Darrell Henderson and Sean McVay have obviously played together for 4, 5, 6 years, however many years it was. Darrell Henderson could maybe slot into that offense very quickly because he knows the offense. He's familiar with it. Now, the rookie, Evans, is the guy who went right in, but again, we'll see what practice is like this week. I'm just going to stash him and see what the report is Sunday. If I feel like he's going to get 10 to 15 carries, he's probably going to go into that flex or running back spot. And then I picked up this kid, Mike Wilson, who's really only had one monster week right here, and then everything else is pretty average. Now he is facing Seattle, who's the second worst defense when it comes to receivers, ranked 110. Surprisingly, this is why I stress with you guys to make sure you go to all players or all available players to all players, and then you can go to flex or receiver or whatever you want. But when you do this, and you go, let's say we'll go to the last 4 weeks total, and then you go to fantasy points. This is most recent. As you can see here, Mike Wilson is available in most leagues. I just picked him up this morning, so there's 25 players per page, 25, 24, 23, 22, 21. So over the last 4 weeks, Mike Wilson has scored the 21st most amount of fantasy points as a receiver, and he's available in most leagues. So if you're rostering, even if you're only rostering 2 receivers, that's 24 receivers in a 12-team league, and he's available in the top 24 of the top 2, and most teams have 3 receivers plus a flex. So Wilson's definitely an interesting option. Again, 7, 9, 7 or 9 isn't the worst production from a flex stream pickup, but dropped 23 against San Francisco. Kind of impressive. His targets in this game are 7 versus every other week he's averaging like 3. So when he got more targets, he ended up scoring more points. Again, you guys know I love to go to receiving and go to targets too, right? So as you can see, I got Stephon Diggs and Garrett Wilson who over the last 4 weeks are top five in targets. So, Garrett Wilson, I was thinking about trading him, but even with Zach Wilson, this is not the worst situation to be in. Now, I overdrafted him for sure because I thought Aaron Rodgers was his quarterback, but 12, 15, 7, 10, 7, 13. You're still getting a decent production from Garrett Wilson if you didn't overdraft him. And then Puka's down here. Puka's taking a hit because of Cooper Kupp. That's okay, though. I'm curious, though. Let's see who's being targeted. Terrace Marshall Jr. down here. DJ Shark up here. So Thielen has been getting all the touchdowns in Carolina, but I don't know if that production can hold up the whole year. And if Bryce Young is playing from behind all year, he's obviously going to have to air the ball out. DJ Shark and Terrace Marshall both available, both targeted 21 plus times over the last 4 weeks. They're on bye. At least keep him on your radar. Kendrick Bourne, huge week 1, falls off a cliff, has a solid week this week. After Buffalo, they have a lot of green in here for receivers. Miami, Washington, LA, Pittsburgh, Indy's 14th, Giants are 12th. So I think Mac Jones stinks, but if they're throwing the ball, I just don't know what Belichick's going to do. If there's junk points and they're throwing the ball because they're playing from behind, maybe Kendrick Bourne's interesting. Wandale, not so interesting right here. I don't know what the Giants are doing. They could have won that game. Terrible clock management. Former coach of the year. And now he's looking like he doesn't know what he's doing. Why can't, DeBoll? I couldn't think of his name. So that's what's going on in the receiver position. Let's just go through running back too. Again, rushing attempts over the last 4 weeks, all players. Is there anybody on here? Gus Edwards is available in this league. 54 attempts, but those 54 attempts are obviously leading to 5, 5, 4, 5. That's pretty horrible. And I mean, listen, Gus Edwards is not getting in the end zone, so a couple of these weeks could change with a touchdown. He's got 11 light. But to get all of these attempts and only have 40 yards, I don't know if the Ravens just aren't running the ball well or Lamar's taking up all the action. Not a lot of green here. 2 green matchups. Houston drops 5 against Pittsburgh, 5 against. Pretty terrible. Detroit's the worst team to run against, so you probably don't want to play them this week. Arizona is where you would hope Gus Edwards might have a bounce back, but let's also check out, is there anybody else in Baltimore? So you go over here to Baltimore, filter that real quick. So all offense, let's see how many Lamar has. Lamar's got 42 attempts. I mean, Gus Edwards is the clear-cut back here, right? Justice Hill has 18 attempts. Melvin Gordon has 13. But they're not running the ball the way they used to. I don't know. I always looked at Baltimore like a run-first team, but I guess when you have Lamar Jackson running for 235 yards on 42 attempts versus Gus Edwards 188 on 12 more attempts, yikes. So maybe the Ravens turn it around, run the ball more. It's not looking like it right now. And then let's go to tight end too. Let's see who's being targeted as a tight end in the league over the last 4 weeks. We got, surprise, surprise, Kelsey. Laporta's number 2. Laporta's really kind of grown into his own. This could be the next premier tight end in the league. We'll see. Goff looks pretty solid. 11 less points than Kelsey over the last 4 weeks. Pretty impressive. Ingram, surprisingly, in 3rd. Hawkinson, Pitts. Okay, Pitts is coming along. Crazy that he's got 7 less targets and in the 5 spot, and he has half the amount of points as Travis Kelsey. That's really shows you how good Kelsey is. Let's go to fantasy points too, just so I see. Laporta, okay, Mark Andrews has 14 less. Schultz, Komet, Kittle down here. Go back to targets. Goddard, right? So all these guys look to be taken. You have Tyler Conklin right here, who's available on a bye. And I'm just showing you guys targets, right? Because lots of targets could lead to points, even if you haven't seen points yet. So Conklin, hop back to receivers real quick, in case we missed anybody who's getting targeted. Terrace Marshall, Bourne, and Shark are the only ones available in my league. But again, if you use these filters in your league, you might find somebody diamond in the rough who has, 28 plus targets, 30 targets, who you might be able to pick up. And then the same thing for tight ends. Running backs, again, go to rushing attempts. And then quarterbacks, we're going to filter that too. Rushing yards, passing yards. So passing yards in the league, Again, you have Desmond Ritter in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8th spot. So Ritter and Howell are 8 and 9 in passing yards. Now their touchdowns and interceptions, 4 and 5, 6 and 5. This is what's kind of preventing them from really being an elite fantasy quarterback, right? So more touchdowns, less interceptions. Now you've got a couple more points here, but the yards are there. So it's just something to keep an eye out for, and then you keep an eye out for, in addition to that, who are they playing? Ritter's got two bottom half teams, right, in terms of who you want to play, and then he's got two really, good looking matchups. So Minnesota, Arizona. So, maybe before or after this week, after week 8 or before week 8, you scoop up Ritter if you have a quarterback on bye for week 9 or week 10. Minnesota and Arizona looking pretty good. And then you're going to have Ritter at home and away, both in domes. So you got to like that. And again, I like looking at these statistics, like we're talking about rushing attempts, targets, yards, because you could have these statistics and it might not lead to points, but if they keep putting up these numbers, they can lead to points, right? And the reason for that, again, is like we've talked in previous episodes, getting the ball a lot and you're not getting in the end zone, the points might not be there. But if you keep getting those attempts or you keep getting those targets, eventually you find the end zone. That's what I want to see. So I went 3-0 last week in fantasy, feeling pretty good about it. Have good matchups this week. On paper, I should go 3-0 again, but fantasy, and that's never how it works.